We condemn any intimidation when it comes to judges. We condemn intimidation. We condemn any violence, and we've been very clear. It is a clear definition of what violence is or what intimidation is.
Okay, that was White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre at least claiming to be condemning intimidation amid the wave of recent demonstrations targeting conservative Supreme Court justices. This as Justice Brett Kavanaugh had to leave outside the back of a D.C. Morton steakhouse last week when protesters confronted him while he was eating dinner. Now the left-wing group Shut Down D.C. is offering money for any confirmed sightings of conservative justices. Joining me now is Democratic strategist Kristal Knight. Kristal, thanks for being with us tonight. You know, I was on Twitter, I think it was Friday night, and I was following that Twitter handle, and it was so interesting to see it happening in real time. People would report where they saw some of the conservative justices, and then the handle would offer $50 up to $200 Venmo payment to explain where the justices were going next in hopes of sending protesters out there. Where do we draw the line here? I mean, do you think that's a form of intimidation?
I do think it's a form of intimidation. I believe in the right to protest and that everyone deserves to protest whatever cause or issue that they deeply care about. But when we are, infringing on people's personal space in bathrooms, in restaurants, and in this case with Justice Kavanaugh, the protesters were not actually inside of Morton's. They were outside, and the reporting is that he exited out of a back door. He did not encounter them face to face at all. The reporting also says that he didn't even know that they were there. But it does say something that if people don't have the right to do and go about their daily lives, then how does that, help the cause that you're supposedly fighting for when you're showing up at people's doors and when you're really encroaching on people's personal spaces? And so while I believe in the fundamental right to protest, I believe in the fundamental right for every person to have their voice heard, I do think that there's a time and a place. And if you're on public space, public sidewalk, that's appropriate as opposed to approaching someone while they're going about their daily activities.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I mean, protest is healthy. That's what our country is all about. That's what makes us different from other places. We should be allowed to do that. And I get that they're not making physical contact with these justices, but if they organize and go outside of a restaurant and surround the front of the restaurant, technically, are they on a sidewalk? Yes, but is that still intimidation? I mean, do you think that's still intimidation?
I don't know. I don't know that it's any more intimidation than what we saw or what we've been seeing at these school board meetings, where people who are very ginned up or roused up about critical race theory are approaching school board members and teachers as they're driving into school board meetings. And so I think if we are comparing two instances where people have the right to protest again and where people's personal space is infringed, I think those are two different things. If you're standing outside of a restaurant, it's a public sidewalk. And if you know where Morton's is in DC, it's at the top of a building. So it's not a walk in the building right outside. You have to go up an escalator to get into the restaurant. I think that's very different because you're literally hundreds of feet away than if you were driving a car or walking into a building and someone is protesting your body as you're physically walking in.
Yeah, I'm glad you explained that, because I actually don't know the Mortons in D.C., and that makes a big difference, the way you explained it, that it's not on the ground floor. That's good to know. But you make a good point. I mean, we do see it on both sides. It's like on both sides, if they don't get their way, they want to make people's lives hell. That's at least what it feels like. Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, he was on Fox yesterday. He was asked about this issue. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Mm-hmm.
When public officials go into public life, we should expect two things. One, you should always be free from violence, harassment, and intimidation. And two, you're never going to be free from criticism or peaceful protest, people exercising their First Amendment rights.
You know, I've thought about this, Kristal. You know, what Mr. Buttigieg said, Secretary Buttigieg reminded me of this. Sometimes when I see stuff like this, and even the video of the people protesting outside the justices' homes, it makes me wonder, like, are qualified people really going to want these jobs? Because you sign up and you know, your whole personal life is exposed. People start following you around. Social media, you've got Twitter now tracking their every move. Is that ever a concern you've thought about?
Well, I think that that's something that, you know, when you sign up for public office, I agree with some of what, you know, Secretary Buttigieg stated, in that when you get into public office, you are signing up to be criticized. You're signing up to be criticized basically for whatever you do in the role that you've been elected or that you've been placed in. But I also agree that, you know, you should be free of intimidation and free from bodily harm. But, you know, I think that if for folks that are involved in politics, whether you're an elected official, you're an operative, or maybe you're a reporter, or you're just politically adjacent, I do think that there is a risk with every kind of role as it relates to politics, because millions of people have opinions. Voters have opinions about the way in which you vote or don't vote or take position on a number of issues. And so it is something that people have to consider when they're getting into these types of roles. But I don't think that we should assume that, you know, any of the justices, are naive in that some of the positions that they take will likely be controversial and will arise or awaken a silent or a large majority in the country based upon their decisions.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.